Welcome to the Second Bite Podcast, where we talk with top entrepreneurs and CEOs about creating valuable companies through creative transactions. Now, let's get started with the show.
Welcome to the Second Bite Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Taskey. Jeff Reynolds is your guest today, the CEO of Agital. Jeff, I am very excited to have this episode together.
Yeah, great to be here, Todd.
Man, it is, you guys are doing something interesting and I think special at Agital. We're going to unpack all of that. Maybe we could just start with who is Agital? What is it? What do you guys do and who do you do it for?
Yeah, I mean, Agital is a leading performance marketing, integrated marketing firm. We work with businesses of all sizes. We're very data-driven, and we're using the latest and most innovative marketing technologies to drive results for our clients. The context around it is that there's just been, in my 25 years in marketing, it's unbelievable the transformation of marketing, and the innovation in marketing is actually transforming business in a virtuous cycle that is allowing all sorts of disruptions of the status quo. And so our thesis is around finding the most innovative businesses that are using the latest in technologies to disrupt marketing. But a lot of those most innovative businesses don't have much scale. And so if we're able to bring them together under a mission and banner that is now Agital, the impact we can have is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, so I want to unpack a whole bunch of things. Maybe the most common feedback I get on the podcast is just conversations like this with guys I never knew existed, partnering up with funds in a way that's something that is new and unusual to me. So let's just do a quick history on Jeff Reynolds, because you were at LRW, you helped grow that to like 1,000 or 1,200 people, had a successful exit, did a couple, and then you were consulting when one of the premier private equity groups that's always on the founder-friendly list, which is Trinity Hunt, knocked on your door. Can you kind of take me through what that was all about?
Yeah, I mean, a quick background is I'm an operator. I'm a marketing guy. I started my career in marketing almost 25 years ago, joined a little boutique company in Los Angeles, and then got to be a part of a tremendous scaling journey there when I think it was like 125 people when I joined. And when I left, we were 1,200, right? So that's a 10X journey over a 18-year career. I was in the business, then I started running the business. Then we did a founder exit in 2015 to a middle market private equity firm. So that was the first time that I'd ever had a chance to have any experiences with private equity. Continued with that business for another 5 years, left that business in 2020, and then was really trying to figure out my next chapter, and started work on a book about scaling service-based businesses, was doing a little consulting when the folks at Trinity Hunt found me. And if I was going to do something with private equity, I only wanted to do it with somebody that I thought really understood people-based businesses. And they passed that test, and it was a really great match. And they had the broad thesis around innovation and marketing. And they were looking for a leader to carry the torch forward. And that's sort of their model, is to quickly bring in an operator to really run that business. And so I joined on officially in November of 21. So we've been at it just a little more than 2 years.
And I think I would change it just a couple of those words, because and you correct me where I'm wrong, but because there's lots of private equity groups that go out and they acquire businesses and they put them together and they build off of what they have there. Trinity Hunt and folks like them, their thesis is, we're going to get a guy like Jeff, not to manage that business, but to manage the business that we're going to be, right? So you guys started with Exclusive Concepts. I don't know how big that was, but that had an operator in it. So they came with this model, like the executive chairman or the CEO of a larger company that will help us work through those acquisitions, help us do integration, help us tell the story. Is that kind of what that was all about? And is that an accurate description?
Yeah, well, I describe our model as a joiner model, because we're focused on a lot of businesses that aren't big at this standpoint, in part because many of the most innovative businesses that are sort of tech-enabled services businesses leveraging the latest technologies, they've only been around 5 or 10 years. And so they might only be 30, 50, 75 people, but that's where the innovation is. And so the first business, Exclusive, that joined us was about 100 employees. So it was certainly a very nice sized business.
And what kind of revenue is a group like that, roughly?
Yeah, that's going to be north of 20 million in revenue.
Right.
But a collection of smaller businesses brought together, easy on paper, more complex in reality.
Sure.
And so the Trinity Hunt model is to bring in somebody that can understand how to build and craft that inside of a services-based business, right? We're talking about people. We're talking about assets up and down the elevator every day. And so you really have to understand culture. You got to understand what drives value inside of these businesses. And so, that's why they went looking for somebody that had experience at a company, 10x the size of where they were after the first business to help be the leader and shepherd that business.
So
and we're not a holding company. We're ultimately going to be one brand, and we're going to integrate those businesses. But nonetheless, there's operators running those businesses successfully now. So I'm certainly a leader of leaders.
So you had exclusive concepts, and Trinity Hunt came to you and said, we have this business and here's our vision? Or did they say, we have this business, what would you do with it? What was that like?
I would describe it as they had a broad thesis around innovation and marketing. They had found a first business that they thought was a great exemplar and starting point in exclusive. And literally, while they were in late stage discussions with that business, they fired up their CEO search and literally married the two so that exclusive closed on October 15th. I flew out to Boston, spent a couple of days with that founder, and what I always say was a little bit of an arranged marriage, where we had decided we want to do this together, and then I joined on a week later.
And then part of the thesis, as it typically is with private equity, is rather than organically grow at 10% a year and add other service lines, we're going to acquire those. And I have a couple of those trophies over my shoulder here from working together with you. One of the things, and this is where I'd like to spend some time. One of the things you said in there to one of my clients was, look, we look at hundreds and hundreds of decks of businesses. We talk to dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs, and we offer to one or two. So my two-part question is, what do you look for to take it from the hundreds to the dozens to want to have a conversation with them? And then what vibe do you get? What do you look for from that leader in that business to get it to the one or two that you ultimately make an offer to?
Yeah. The first is our strategic framework. And so we're looking for, right now marketing's probably got 40 different levers that you could pull in a service offering. We've got a priority list of maybe 10 of those kind of key services that is our broad, I'll call it strategic offer thesis. So we're looking for a business that fits that. Then we're looking for a business that has a demonstrated value proposition, which sometimes can be a little smaller, sometimes can be a little bigger. And we're looking for a business that's growing, that's demonstrating literally in their client retention, in their overall growth line, that they have something successful. Like the market's telling us this is a business with a valuable value proposition. So that's sort of what gets you to the table for a first conversation.
And that's because you guys have a focus around where the business is going, and these are the pieces we need to get us there.
Correct.
And so as an example, on the transaction we did with WDG, you guys had a need which was focused around web dev with a marketing bend, and that you like the clients and you love the management team, but that fit that specific criteria, and it was the right size, giving you that market validation, if you will. Is that fair to say?
Correct. It met all the criteria. So then we have a first conversation, and all those things that I described are necessary but not sufficient. And then it really comes down to leaders, to culture, to the long-term prospects of the business. And if there's anything I've learned over, I've now done 17 acquisitions in the course of my career, it's that leadership matters. Leadership tells me so much about the business. And so I really spend a lot of time getting to know the founders and the leadership teams of these businesses, because in the end, it's at the core of what we're acquiring. And
how do you do that?
Great businesses attract great talent and tend to be healthy, growing places.
How do you do that across screens? Are you able to do that? Are there Are there certain criteria that you look for that are important to you?
Yeah, so there's some of it is I'll call it intuitive, that is hard to put a finger on. I've just looked at and known a lot of leaders over time, and so I can render some judgments. But I look a lot at how they've built leadership inside of the organization. So when I see a founder that's built a leadership team that's really running the business, that lets me know that they're a leader of leaders. When I see a founder that has taken people from entry level to now be key leaders on their team over 5 or 7 years, I know that it's somebody that understands how to create a great environment for employees and literally build human capital over time, how to teach others what's inside of them. You know, in a services business, often the early stages, it's really just a founder delivery system. When you got 5 and 7 employees, somebody's great at the craft, a passion around the craft, and they get a few people helping them. But as we start to really look at acquiring a business with 25, 50, 75 employees, they've got to get out what's in them as the founder into the DNA of the business, the people, the processes, the culture, the systems, the way that they work. And so when I see evidence of those things, that tells me that they understand the role of leadership, and they've actually been able to attract and retain other leaders inside of the business. And I'm a big leadership guy. Like, that's, if you ask me, like, what's one of the things that's going to determine the future of Agital, it's going to be the quality of our leaders, the quality with which we continue to build and develop leaders. Because I think it's if you've got great leaders, you can accomplish most anything in a tech-enabled services business like marketing services that we're in.
So let me ask you this: do you know, as a smaller firm particularly goes through this process that we lead them through, oftentimes they don't want the word to get out in their management team, or certainly their employees, in case it doesn't work out or whatever the case may be. Does it impact your thinking in regards to that management team if the founder hasn't brought any of them into the circle of trust yet for those conversations?
No, not anything in particular. There's a lot of understandable emotions as founders wander in, particularly if it's the first time they've ever wandered into any of these discussions. And so that there's no particular red flag around that. Ultimately, as part of our process of getting to know a business, we'll often ask for those conversations. And so if somebody has held it a little more tightly, we kind of say, hey, I think it's time to actually broaden it out a little bit. It's the right thing to do so that key leaders in your business kind of journey with you if we're going to make this transition. And so we just manage that.
Yeah. You guys have, with Agital, so you started with Exclusive Concepts. How many businesses have you acquired in the 2 years?
7 total.
Yeah, which is quite a pace. I believe Spencer Hines, who runs corporate development for you, is a reason for that. He's very good. He's a whole bunch of things that are pleasant to work with. What would you say, because it's more than just a good corporate development guy and it's more than just a good CEO, what do you think is driving or behind your success to be able to acquire that many businesses just in a couple of years? And does that compound the integration problem?
So 2 very different questions. So the first one is, there are lots and lots of entrepreneurs starting businesses, and many of them, they started them 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so we just got to get in conversations with those businesses, and we put a lot of hard work into doing that. So some of it truly is, we're focused on it. It's Spencer and Sam. We got a two-person team dedicated to those conversations. I join for many, if not most of them. And so that allows us to talk to a lot of folks to find ones that meet our very high standards. And so literally, I know the numbers. We've looked at over 250 businesses. I've spoken personally with 200 of them, and we've had 7 of them join. So that's a very disciplined, hardworking process to find great businesses that fit us. Now, once somebody's a good fit, now it's on us to convince them that this is a great place for them. And I think we've got a great management team. I think we've got a great strategy for what we're trying to accomplish. I think I've got a great track record of success of being a a leader that understands how to do M&A, how to integrate businesses, how to continue with a people-first culture. Like if you ask me of the accomplishments I'm proud of in my career, it's that we every year I do an employee engagement survey of all the employees of the companies that I run, and the employee engagement results the first day that I was ever the president of a company when I had 200 employees, that they were better when I had 1,200. And I think a lot of people think that scale means we're going to lose culture. And I don't believe it, because I've actually lived it and delivered it. You can actually run a business at scale and deliver better culturally for employees. So I think that track record, if anybody, I'll share some of it. Maybe it comes off in the way that I talk and care about employees and building human capital inside of the talented people that are inside of these organizations, that hopefully gives us a little better hit rate. The fact that we're run by an operator, a lot of the private equity competitors that might also be wanting to look at some of these businesses are not being led by an operator that really understands marketing and understands how to run that business. And so maybe that helps us a little bit.
And I think what I see too is three things. Number one, you guys pay a fair value for a business in terms of enterprise value with real cash. But there's also upside. There's equity that you get. And the equity is nice. But then if you look at a group like Trinity Hunt, and this is their fourth fund that they're on?
No, we're in Fund 5.
Fund 5. So if you look at the average of the last four funds and the return on capital to across the entire fund, each one individually, it's something you get excited about, right? They're a big group. They're a smart group. They know how to put the pieces together. Their thesis seems like it always works. And then the last wrinkle to it is, we did two that I can speak to, and the criteria was a little bit different. Both of them wanted a second bite, and it was meaningful and important. One of them had outside investors that they needed to clean up and they needed to take care of, and the other one didn't. And so their needs were a little bit different. And I think the combination of cash, equity upside, and very importantly, the belief that the next 2 or 3 or 5 years I'm here is going to be fun. And it's going to be fun because Jeff's a good guy, which is nice. I don't know how much I'll interact with him, but the other CEOs and management team and resources we have here, all of these are also A players. Do you consciously think about that when you're doing an acquisition?
I consciously, unconsciously, when I wake and when I go to bed, I'm thinking about who these leaders are and how they're going to be a part of a team. Because in the end, we're building a team, and I love teams. Teams can accomplish things that individuals cannot. But one bad apple in that team can literally spoil the whole thing.
The whole bunch, girl. Yes.
I am just vigilant in wanting great leaders that want to be a part of something, because that's actually a pretty important distinction. There are lots of entrepreneurs that have built great businesses, but the answer is they, even though they may not fully understand it, they may not actually want to be a part of something else because they're used to running their own show. And I respect that and appreciate that. It's not going to be the right fit for us. It's sort of a part of the curve where you've got to have being an entrepreneur is tough. I have a tremendous respect for what it takes to be, one person in a box of business cards, and then 2, and then 3, and get to the spot where we're in a conversation. And so people have to have a certain degree of tenacity and confidence and chutzpah to be an entrepreneur that we're in conversation with. But then again, you can't be so focused on yourself and unable to work with others that you can't come and be a part of a team. And that's trying to get the right fit for what we're doing. And again, I can respect someone that is used to being in charge, and has had a lot of success being in charge, and wants to continue to absolutely run their own ship and control their destiny. They're just not going to be the right fit for ours, where I think we find a really nice blend of giving people a lot of autonomy to continue to grow and learn and thrive with their team and their business, opportunity for growth and learning for those individuals, and yet still be a part of a team where there's a bunch of other smart people that, oh, by the way, also built some really killer business.
Yeah. So let me just ask on that, because a lot of times from an entrepreneur standpoint, I hear, I wouldn't be a good employee. I don't want to be an employee. I don't want. And I maybe you could just comment post-close. You're not trying to turn anybody into an employee. But as a specific question, what do you think is the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to adjust to post-close? And what do you think they're most surprised about on the upside post-close?
Interesting question. So I would say the accountability when you join a private equity based platform like ours, there are investors, and I always say there's someone's teacher's pension fund has said we're going to designate some percentage of our teacher's pension fund to alternative investments, and we're going to put some chips in some high return places like private equity. And by the way, my mother was a third grade teacher, and I'm counting
Mom taught history in high school. Yeah,
I'm counting on her pension for her. And so when you go from being a privately held company to being a part of something, like we all have stakeholders. The private equity firm has stakeholders. I've got stakeholders, and there's people that are counting on us. And so the degree of financial vigilance that is a part of having a stable revenue and a growing revenue base and forecasting that out so we understand and try to predict the business's success in the future. I think that's probably one of the biggest adjustments, because a lot of entrepreneurs are like, they just know that they're gonna produce a lot of cash. The business is going great, and if they come in 20% higher or 20% lower at the end of the year, like, who cares? I think that's a pretty meaningful adjustment, and it's one of there's people counting on you, and you have to deliver to that, because it's our charter and it's our mission, and it's part of growing a valuable business.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest.
What about day-to-day behavior? You know, if I work from 7 to 3, or if I work from noon to midnight, how does that need to change?
Yeah. So with the businesses we acquire, we have a very clear 3-phased integration process, and particularly in that first year, I always view that first year as almost like a psychological way station between your life as an independent business and your full integration into the Agital business. And we accomplish some things during that window, but a lot of it is just an adjustment phase. And I expect those founders and leaders of those businesses to run it like they always did. One of them wanted to let me know they were going to be out on vacation, and I'm like, I don't care when you're going to be out on vacation. Like, run it, deliver.
And I'm sure you could have reached them on vacation if you had to, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And so in many ways, those aspects aren't different. Over time, the opportunity to collaborate, to create more for a client, more for a potential opportunity, gets you involved with other people. And that collaboration takes some time. And so I think that can be an adjustment for a founder, which is, I used to just always be able to just make everything happen. And it's like, well, now you're working with other teams, other units, other leaders, and you've got to become a more collaborative person, which to an entrepreneur might mean, you got to have some meetings. And,
right.
And like, there's folks that can be in a little bit of an adjustment for, but hopefully if it's put in the right context, everybody understands that it's because we're operating at greater scale with more people involved, that you've got to get things coordinated to be your best. And the coordination isn't 3 people, it's 3 teams of 6. And all of a sudden, like 18 people got to get on board to make a big thing happen.
Yeah. You know, there's 2 things I tell guys all the time, is that when somebody hands you a pretty big check, you might have to fill out some TPS reports and do things a little bit differently than you've done in the past, which is, it never seems to be that big of a deal. The other thing I remind people of is that there's a reason that private equity wins all the time. And I was talking to a CEO the other day who's now part of a private equity group, and they did 2 small like acqui-hires, and he said, and they've just put a group under LOI, and he said, I'll tell you, Todd, the rigor, the diligence, the financial modeling, everything these guys did is 2 or 3 or 4 levels above what we did. And I look back on the deal we did, and I'm just so thankful. We just were pure luck. And I see that now, and I thought we were doing it, but there's just a whole nother level. Mostly because I think they've done it before. You obviously have done it before. And there's lessons learned in there, whether it's from how to model your projections, how do you do due diligence, how do you arrange financing with debt lenders, all of those type of things, which is why or how you can grow a business from 100 to 1,000 people. Anything you would add to that you have seen and experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I've just had a lot of experience in understanding what really helps a business thrive in the long term. And so when you combine that with a lot of rigor around assessing a business and its current state, its trajectory, its fundamentals, you put yourself in a position for success. And I'd say there's just a lot of experience that comes to bear in what we're doing, whether it's my 25 years of experience in marketing, my 18-year journey with a single company to watch how a company can organically grow, my experience doing M&A and watching what works and what doesn't work, combined with the diligence around what business fundamentals seem to really predict a business that's going to thrive over the long term. Like, there's a lot of smart people that are involved in our process before we ever bring somebody in. And then we got a lot of smart people to help those businesses grow. I'm really proud of our management team. Literally, our leadership team, our CFO, our chief people officer, our head of IT, our senior vice president of marketing, every single one of them, private equity experience, marketing experience, M&A experience. Like, it's a veteran team. It ain't their first rodeo.
Yeah.
And we'd all love to tell you that none of us have ever made a mistake. Guess what? You'll learn a lot when you play the game at a high level. And it's going to be to the benefits of our Agital team and our shareholders that experience is going to come to bear that I think is going to lead to a really successful, legacy business. I'm only going to be satisfied if long after I'm gone from Agital, that it's a tremendous place to join, work, that clients want to hire us, that people want to stay there. Yes, a private equity hold period has a certain end state on it because that's how private equity works. Like, I'm building a business that I help outlast me, forever. That's at my standard of what I'm not in this for. While I will not be the CEO of this business forever, I hope to put it on a trajectory where it's held amongst the highest esteem of any company in marketing, or maybe, frankly, any company in the world.
So let me ask you these last couple questions then. Given that, and given the trajectory you're on, and the fact that you've done 7 acquisitions, what are the, in terms of gaps that you're looking to fill? What's near the top of your priority list?
We mentioned earlier we had a web development business join us that was more of an enterprise business, lead generation, Drupal WordPress business. I'm looking for an e-commerce specialty web development business because we got a lot of e-commerce clients, and partly having success in e-commerce is having that great front door that is your web experience. So Shopify, BigCommerce kinds of skills. So that's very high on my list. I think the world of social is one that's in constant state of flux. Facebook is now, Meta has had its back and forth over the last 36 months, but just reported incredible quarterly earnings. I think we got to continue to bolster our social capabilities. We bought a TikTok business about a year ago, and surprise, surprise, it was only 3 years old because TikTok is only in the US only 4 or 5 years old. Like, so this was a really small business, but we know that paid social and that organic social space is a really hot one. And so I think we want to continue to bolster our capabilities there. There's some CRM on the back end because part of justifying a customer acquisition cost is the long-term returns you can get out of a new customer. And so if you've got capabilities to deliver great relationships that lead to repeat purchase. So I think we can bolster there. And I think we're looking for strategy, which is really hard to find. Strategy is a tough business. We've got a lot of strategy pockets in our capabilities, but a real pure play marketing strategy business is I think very valuable. And it's hard to find one that's built any scale. There's a lot of smart strategists out there, but actually building a strategy business is a challenging one. So those might be a few things on the list. And then I might throw in some things around emerging AI technologies that we know is just going to be a part of the future of marketing. We're very excited about an acquisition that we just announced that has some of those capabilities. I think there's going to be a lot of emerging technologies that are going to continue to flourish. So one of the key thrusts over the next 2 years is to get ourselves out into the ecosystem of the MarTech space to find the folks that are building the technologies that are going to frame the next generation of marketing technologies. And we want to be early in. Part of our name, Agital, is about being agile. We want to be folks that can ingest what's going on with technology, quickly convert it to value for our clients, and be leaders in bringing those capabilities out there. So we want to have our hands in that forward-facing innovation.
I got to tell you, it will be exciting to watch how you guys execute on this over the next few years. Hopefully, we'll be able to get you back here for an update in a couple of years to be able to connect with you, which is hard to do, but your contact information and Agital and Spencer and Sam, their contact info will be in the show notes. People could also reach out to me at Potomac Business Capital. But Jeff, it was great insight from the other side of the table to get a perspective of what good leaders are looking for as they're building a team. I'll be, like I said, excited to watch Agital grow, and I'll wish you the best of luck. And thank you for making time for us today.
Yeah, no, great to spend time, Todd. And I hope this is useful for all of your audience. I've enjoyed your podcasts that I've been watching religiously for the last 12, 18 months. And I think it's a great service that you're providing to a lot of this stuff. I think feels a little cloak and dagger and behind the scenes. People don't understand it, and to just bring it out into the light of day just helps. It helps everybody. So thanks.
I appreciate that. I think that's the feedback I get most often is I didn't even know there's a guy like Jeff Reynolds around, let alone his views and perspectives, and to be able to listen in is helpful. So you were a generous share. Thanks for that. And thanks again. Best of luck with Agital.
Great. We'll be in touch.
Thanks for listening to the Second Bite podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.